All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going deep into some pretty heavy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking U.S. intelligence mind control
Okay.
and even alien abductions.
Well,
And you gave me a really interesting mix of sources for this one.
okay, great.
We've got a scholarly text on the history of U.S. intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a personal account from this woman, Kathy O'Brien, who claims she was a victim of CIA mind control.
Uh-huh.
And then this book by Truman Cash.
Yeah.
That ties together secret societies, religion, and alien abduction.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So let's,
Yeah, where should we start?
I think we should start with the history of U.S. intelligence,
Sounds good to me.
just to get the background.
Yeah.
You know, and this scholarly text we have,
Right.
it really emphasizes analysis as like a core function of these intelligence agencies.
That makes sense.
Like they even have separate branches
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to things like imagery analysis, signals intelligence, and human intelligence.
Yeah, that's the classic spy stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
But the book doesn't really dwell on the cloak and dagger,
Right.
which is what we usually associate with these agencies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good reason for that. The emphasis on analysis is crucial because it kind of highlights the real purpose of intelligence gathering.
Right.
It's not just about collecting information.
Right.
It's about making sense of it.
Right.
Think of it like putting a puzzle together. You have all these individual pieces, but they don't mean much on their own.
Okay.
It's the analysis that helps connect the dots. You know, it reveals the bigger picture.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
But doesn't all the secrecy also like create a potential for things to go wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, if these agencies are operating in the shadows,
Mhm.
how can we be sure they aren't abusing their power?
That's the inherent tension in intelligence work.
Yeah.
The need for secrecy. It's essential
Yeah.
to protect national security.
Right.
But it also creates like this breeding ground for suspicion and distrust.
Right.
You know, and this tension is a key factor in the conspiracy theories we'll be looking at,
Okay.
especially when we get to Kathy O'Brien's account.
Okay, so speaking of Kathy O'Brien,
Yeah.
let's dive into her book,
Okay.
Transformation of America.
All right.
Now, I think before we go any further,
Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge that her story's like incredibly controversial.
Yeah.
A lot of people are skeptical of her claims.
Right.
There's no independent verification.
Yeah.
But even with that in mind,
Right.
her account is pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
She claims to be a victim of Project Incultra,
Oh, wow.
this purported CIA mind control program.
And this is where understanding the complexities of trauma and memory becomes crucial.
Okay.
Because while we need to approach O'Brien's specific claims, you know, with a critical eye,
Right.
it's important to acknowledge the potential psychological impact of the type of trauma she describes. You know, even if some of the details are disputed, the core themes of manipulation, abuse, and then the feeling of being powerless,
Right.
these are often present in accounts of trauma survivors.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good point.
yeah.
So O'Brien alleges that she was subjected to horrific trauma-based programming
Mm-hmm.
from a young age.
Wow.
She even describes witnessing her own daughter, Kelly,
Oh, my God.
undergoing similar trauma.
Wow.
And she talks about being forced to participate in all sorts of disturbing activities,
Yeah.
often involving powerful figures
Mm-hmm.
like senators, presidents, even foreign leaders.
And this is where the book starts to tap into those anxieties we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
The fear of hidden agendas, powerful figures operating in the shadows,
Right.
and the potential for abuse that comes with, you know, unchecked power.
Yeah.
So,
One of the most vivid anecdotes O'Brien shares is what she calls the Crossroads incident,
okay.
which happened when she was a child. And she describes being on horseback with her mother,
Okay.
approaching this dangerous intersection.
Mm.
And she's begging her mother to slow down. But instead of slowing down, her mother falls off the horse.
Oh, my gosh.
And Kathy's left, clinging to the horse, totally helpless as it charges toward the crossroads.
It's a powerful image, and even if we set aside whether it literally happened as described, it speaks to a feeling
Right.
of being trapped, of being swept along by forces beyond one's control.
Yeah.
You know, and this theme of powerlessness, it's a
Obviously.
recurring motif throughout O'Brien's narrative.
Absolutely. And this feeling of being trapped is echoed in her descriptions of the alleged mind control,
Right.
where she talks about being both physically and mentally imprisoned,
Mm-hmm.
forced to comply with the demands of her abusers.
And that brings us to this psychological concept
Okay.
of dissociation, which is often a coping mechanism for dealing with like overwhelming trauma. So, dissociation can range from like mild detachment to more severe cases like amnesia.
Right.
Or even dissociative identity disorder,
Okay.
where someone develops distinct personalities.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit.
Okay.
Dissociative identity disorder, or DD,
Right.
used to be called multiple personality disorder.
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
It's still pretty controversial.
Yeah.
Often misunderstood.
It's a complex condition, and it's important to approach it with sensitivity and to rely on the guidance of qualified mental health professionals.
Right.
But in the context of O'Brien's account, it's important to understand how trauma can fragment a person's sense of self and their memories.
Okay.
So
even if we're skeptical of the specifics of O'Brien's claims, we can't dismiss the potential role of trauma in shaping her experiences and her memories.
Exactly. And this leads us to the next source you provided.
Okay.
Truman Cash's book, The Programming of a Planet, where we see some intriguing overlaps with O'Brien's narrative.
Right, like the idea of government involvement in mind control.
Right, exactly.
But Cash takes it even further.
Yeah.
He introduces this concept of social implants,
Yeah.
which is pretty mind-blowing, really.
It is.
He's basically saying that our beliefs,
Right.
behaviors, even our perceptions of reality could be influenced by these hidden programs running in the background of our minds.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, albeit unsettling concept.
Right.
To understand it better, imagine a computer program running silently in the background
Okay.
of your operating system.
Right.
You might not even be aware it's there, but it's influencing how your computer functions, what information you see, how you interact with the system.
Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to see how that applies to Cash's theory.
Yeah.
But before we get too far down this rabbit hole,
Right.
let's break down Cash's ideas step by step.
Absolutely. First, he argues that these social implants are widespread, affecting, entire populations.
Okay.
Second, he claims they're implanted through various means, including hypnosis, subliminal messaging, and even advanced technology that can directly influence brainwaves.
Okay.
And finally, and perhaps most importantly, he believes these implants serve a purpose,
Okay.
whether it's to control and manipulate the masses, or in some cases, to guide humanity toward a higher level of consciousness.
Okay, wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But before we get into the possible motives,
Right.
I think it's important to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
How do we even know if these social implants are real?
Right.
Like, what evidence does Cash present to support this theory?
That's where things get a bit tricky.
Okay.
Cash relies heavily on, anecdotal evidence, historical patterns, and interpretations of symbolism.
Okay.
He connects secret societies to ancient religions and occult practices,
Okay.
suggesting that they hold the keys to understanding these hidden programs.
Right. So we're starting to see how this all ties together.
It's all connected.
Yeah, we've got U.S. intelligence, mind control, secret societies, ancient religions, and of course we can't forget about the aliens.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll explore how Cash connects social implants to alien abductions, delve into specific abduction accounts, and examine the various motives he proposes for why this manipulation might be happening.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
All right. So welcome back to our deep dive.
Back into the deep end.
Yeah, last time we kind of laid the groundwork,
Right.
exploring that whole world of U.S. intelligence.
Yeah.
And delving into some pretty thought-provoking ideas about mind control and social implants from Kathy O'Brien and Truman Cash.
Yes, it's fascinating how those topics kind of intersect.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see how Cash connects these social implants to the whole alien abduction phenomenon.
Yeah, he seems to think they're both part of some grand scheme to manipulate humanity.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. His theory is essentially that both social implants and alien abductions are tools, used for manipulating human consciousness and behavior on a large scale. He sees them as interconnected pieces of a larger puzzle.
Okay, I'm following so far.
Yeah.
But before we get into why someone might want to manipulate us, let's look at some specific examples.
Okay.
Of the alien abduction accounts Cash presents in the book.
Yeah, sure.
I know you've read the book.
I have.
What are some of the cases that stood out to you?
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is Bert's story.
Yeah.
You might remember Cash kind of refers to it as the wall walking incident,
Yeah.
where Bert claims he literally walked through a solid wooden door
Yeah, I remember that one.
during an abduction experience.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It is.
Cash even talks about, like, physical evidence.
Right.
Like indentations on the door jamb
Right.
to support Bert's claim. But even Cash admits it's not, like, definitive proof.
Exactly. And that's where, critical thinking comes in.
Right.
Even if those marks exist, there could be other explanations. Maybe the door was damaged before the alleged abduction.
Right.
Or maybe the house settled over time, causing the wood to warp.
Right.
We simply don't have enough information to say for sure.
So even with, like, physical evidence,
Yeah.
it's important to consider alternative explanations and not jump to conclusions.
Absolutely.
What about some of the other cases?
Sure.
Cash mentions a guy named Kevin.
Yeah.
Who claims that the Greys mistakenly abducted the wrong person.
Oh, yeah. Kevin. He was staying at his brother Bert's house when the alleged abduction happened.
Okay.
He describes seeing a UFO hovering over the swimming pool.
Wow.
And then witnessing 2 Greys enter the house.
Oh, wow.
But instead of taking Kevin,
right,
they went into Bert's room and left with him.
So they just, like, bypassed Kevin completely?
It seems that way, yeah.
And went straight for his brother.
It does seem a bit odd.
Yeah.
Especially if we're to believe that, the Greys are these highly advanced,
right,
meticulous beings.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be able to identify their target accurately.
That's one way to look at it.
Right.
And Cash himself acknowledges, like, the strangeness of this account. But he also uses it to highlight the idea that maybe we don't fully understand the Greys' motives.
Right.
Or their methods. Perhaps there was a reason they needed Bert specifically. Or maybe their actions were deliberately meant to confuse and disorient Kevin.
Okay, so we're seeing a pattern here.
Yeah.
These abduction accounts are often strange, sometimes contradictory,
Right.
and rarely fit neatly into our preconceived notions about how aliens might behave.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so fascinating.
That's right.
And also so challenging to interpret.
Right.
Let's move on to another case that Cash highlights.
Okay.
Linda's experience.
Okay.
Hers is one of the more disturbing accounts involving an alleged abduction to an underground facility.
Yeah. Linda's story is pretty unsettling.
It is.
She describes this highly structured and organized facility
Right.
with advanced technology and even human collaborators working alongside the Greys.
It's a far cry from the typical image of a spaceship abduction.
Yeah.
Right.
Linda recounts being subjected to medical procedures,
Right.
including the extraction of blood and tissue samples. She also describes seeing, like, strange symbols and diagrams,
Yeah.
almost like they were conducting occult rituals.
It definitely adds a layer of mystery and unease to her account.
Okay, so you've got these 3 very different abduction accounts.
Right.
We got Bert,
Yeah.
who claims to have walked through a wall.
Right.
Kevin, who was seemingly overlooked by the Greys.
Right.
And Linda,
Yeah.
who describes a sophisticated underground facility.
Right.
It's hard to see a clear pattern or motive emerging from these stories.
And that's part of the challenge Cash is grappling with.
Yeah.
He's trying to make sense of these seemingly disparate accounts, looking for connections and ultimately trying to understand the bigger picture.
Right.
He believes there's a reason behind these abductions.
Okay.
A purpose to this manipulation, even if it's not immediately apparent.
So let's get to the heart of the matter, though, the why. Why would anyone, be it aliens or some shadowy human organization, go through all this trouble to abduct and manipulate people?
Right.
What are some of the theories Cash presents?
Well, he explores like a range of motives.
Okay.
Some more plausible than others.
Right.
On the alien front, he talks about genetic experimentation and hybridization.
Right.
As if, they're collecting human DNA. For some grand experiment,
Right.
it taps into that classic science fiction trope
Right.
of humans being used as lab rats by a more advanced species.
Right. That's a pretty common theme in alien abduction narratives.
Absolutely.
But Cash also suggests a more subtle
Yeah.
and insidious motive.
Yeah.
The manipulation of human society and beliefs.
That's right. He proposes that aliens might be using these abductions
okay.
and potentially even social implants
Right.
to subtly influence our thoughts, behaviors, and even our collective consciousness.
Okay, so we've got the aliens possibly trying to control us,
Yeah.
either through direct intervention,
right,
or by messing with our minds.
yeah, right.
What about human motives? Does
Yeah,
Cash suggest any reasons why a human group might be behind this?
he does, and it ties back to his ideas about secret societies
Right.
and their desire for power and control.
Right.
He suggests that some of these groups might be using advanced technology, potentially acquired from
Okay.
or developed in collaboration with extraterrestrials
Right.
to manipulate and control the population.
So it's like a classic conspiracy theory scenario,
Right.
with shadowy elites pulling the strings from behind the scenes,
Yeah.
using mind control and other techniques to maintain their power.
That's one way to interpret it.
Right.
And Cash even suggests that some of these groups might believe they're acting in humanity's best interest.
Right.
Guiding us towards a specific outcome.
Right.
Or preventing some catastrophic event.
Wow. So we've got a whole spectrum of motives here,
He's a lot.
ranging from scientific curiosity to power-hungry manipulation to even a sort of paternalistic control.
Right.
Where they think they know what's best for us.
Yeah.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, and it's important to remember that these are just theories.
Yeah.
Interpretations based on the limited information we have. We need to approach these claims with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
And be willing to entertain alternative explanations.
Absolutely. So we've covered some pretty heavy stuff in this part of the deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at specific abduction accounts.
Right.
Explored the idea that aliens might be manipulating human society. And even considered the possibility that human groups are using mind control techniques for their own ends.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
Where do we go from here?
Well, in the final part of this deep dive, we'll delve even deeper into the more metaphysical aspects of these narratives. We'll explore Cash's ideas about the connection between secret societies, ancient religions, and the potential for spiritual manipulation. It's going to be a fascinating journey into the realm where history, mythology, and conspiracy theories kind of collide.
Sounds good. Well, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. We've been through a lot together.
We have.
From the inner workings of U.S. intelligence to the mind-bending claims of mind control and alien abductions.
A lot.
And now, in this last part, we're going to explore the even more mysterious realm.
All right.
Where secret societies, ancient religions, and the potential for spiritual manipulation all come together.
This is where things get really interesting, where we move beyond the physical evidence and concrete claims and delve into the realm of symbolism, interpretation, and the exploration of consciousness itself.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm a little hesitant to go down this path.
Okay.
It's all starting to sound a bit too much like a Dan Brown novel.
I can see that.
But I'm also curious to see how Cash connects all these dots. The secret societies, ancient religions, the social implants, the aliens.
Right. It's a pretty wild mix.
It's a lot.
And that's what makes Cash's work so intriguing. Even if you don't agree with all of his conclusions. He's asking us to consider the possibility that there are forces at play in the world that we don't fully understand. Forces that might be shaping our beliefs, our behaviors, and even our perception of reality.
Okay, so let's dive in. Where does Cash start with all this? What's the connection between secret societies and ancient religions?
Well, he focuses a lot on Egyptian mythology and its potential ties to secret societies. He points to the symbolism used in Egyptian hieroglyphs, particularly the winged disc and its association with the Egyptian gods. Especially Ra.
I'm familiar with the winged disc imagery. But I've always interpreted it as like a symbol of the sun or some kind of celestial power. How does Cash connect it to secret societies?
He suggests that these winged discs were actually representations of flying saucers. And that the Egyptian gods were in fact extraterrestrials who visited Earth in ancient times.
Okay, now that's a pretty big leap. I mean, it's an interesting theory. But is there any evidence to support it? Or is it just like speculation based on interpretation of ancient symbols?
That's a good question. And it's one that a lot of people have debated. Cash presents his interpretations, drawing parallels between ancient myths and modern UFO accounts. But he acknowledges that it's ultimately up to each individual to decide what they believe.
So he's not claiming to have like definitive proof.
Right.
But he's laying out a possible interpretation.
Yeah.
A way of connecting the dots.
Right.
That might explain some of the mysteries we're exploring.
Exactly. And he goes on to suggest that these ancient astronaut gods, if that's what they were the founders of secret societies. Passing down their knowledge and power. To select individuals over the centuries.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious conspiracy theory territory here.
Yeah.
But let's stay with it for a moment.
Okay.
If we entertain this idea, what kind of knowledge or power would these ancient astronauts have passed down?
Cash believes they possessed advanced technology. An understanding of the universe that far surpasses our own.
Right.
And perhaps even the ability to manipulate consciousness itself.
And he suggests that secret societies have been guarding this knowledge.
Right.
Using it to influence the course of human history.
That's his theory.
Yeah.
And he connects it back to the concept of social implants.
Right.
Arguing that these deeply embedded ideas and behaviors might have originated from these ancient astronaut gods.
So it's like these social implants are a form of ancient programming. Designed to control and manipulate humanity.
That's one way to look at it.
Right.
Cash suggests that these implants might be responsible for things like religion, war, even our current economic system.
Wow, that's a pretty sweeping claim. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but
it
seems like he's attributing a lot of complex human behavior to these unseen forces.
He is, and he's not shy about challenging conventional thinking.
Right.
He wants us to consider the possibility that we're not as in control of our destiny as we might think.
Okay, so let's say for argument's sake that these social implants are real. How would they work?
Yeah.
How would you even go about implanting an idea or behavior into someone's mind without them knowing?
Cash suggests a variety of methods, including hypnosis, subliminal messaging, and even advanced technology that can directly manipulate brainwaves. He points to the work of people like Jose Delgado, who conducted experiments in the 1960s and 70s using brain implants to control animal behavior.
I remember reading about Delgado's work. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And a bit terrifying.
It is, yeah.
But wasn't his research limited to animals?
Right.
Has anyone ever demonstrated that you can actually control human behavior in this way?
That's a key question.
Yeah.
And one that Cash doesn't really answer.
Right.
He presents these ideas as possibilities.
Yeah.
But he doesn't offer definitive proof.
Right.
That any of these techniques have been used successfully.
Right.
To manipulate humans on a large scale.
So we're back to the realm of speculation and interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to acknowledge that even if we're skeptical of Cash's claims, there's a certain unsettling truth to the idea that we're constantly being bombarded with information and messages that are trying to influence our thoughts and behaviors.
Absolutely.
Like think about advertising, propaganda, the news cycle. It's a lot to process.
It is a lot. And I think that's part of what makes Cash's work so resonant.
Yeah.
Even if we don't buy into the whole alien conspiracy theory angle, he's tapping into this deep-seated anxiety that we have about losing control.
Right.
About being manipulated by forces beyond our awareness.
Okay, so we've explored Cash's theories about social implants.
Yeah.
Secret societies.
Right.
And ancient astronauts.
It's a lot.
What's his ultimate message? What does he want us to take away from all this?
I think ultimately Cash wants us to question our assumptions, to challenge the narratives that we've been told about history, religion, and even our own place in the universe.
Okay.
He wants us to be aware of the possibility.
Right.
That we're not as in control as we might think.
Yeah.
And to be vigilant against forces that might be trying to to manipulate us.
That's a pretty heavy message.
It is.
And it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways for you?
Yeah, for me, it's been a reminder that the search for truth, it's an ongoing process,
right?
And that it requires us to be open to new ideas,
yeah.
even those that challenge our beliefs.
Yeah.
It also highlights the importance of critical thinking,
right?
Of evaluating evidence carefully, and of being aware of our own biases.
Those are great points, and I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
Even if we disagree with some of the conclusions that Cash presents,
right?
The process of exploring these ideas can be valuable in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It forces us to think critically, to ask questions,
right,
and to consider different perspectives.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this whole deep dive concept so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding answers. It's about engaging in the process of inquiry, of questioning, of exploring the unknown.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own exploration of these fascinating and often unsettling topics.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.